Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1053. 1053, Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, this is one of them days when there's so much news to cover that I don't know if I will get through it all. So I'm going to have to go fast. You have to listen fast, and hopefully we will get through everything here. And there's still things that we'll probably have to bleed over into tomorrow because there's just so much breaking today. So let's go ahead and break into it here. Okay. Well, it looks like the long knives are coming out for Frankenbernie and his legion of Bolsheviks. Now that Frankenbernie has scared the hell out of the Demo-Commie corporate donors by winning nearly half of the black and Hispanic voters in Nevada, the long knives are coming out. And the latest poll in South Carolina shows that Frankenbernie is just 3 points down to Burisma Joe. So you can say sayonara to Burisma Joe and his Southern Wall. And you can say goodbye to the Democrats' chances of stopping Bernie at South Carolina. It's not going to happen. Now, news is coming out, of course, today that Michael Bloomberg and his campaign are about to drop a boatload of whoop-ass on Bernie in the form of millions of dollars in negative ads. And these negative ads are going to point out Frankenbernie's love affair with communist dictators. Frankenbernie did not help himself by going on 60 Minutes with Anderson Cooper to talk about his love for commies like Castro, Daniel Ortega, and the Sandinistas. Okay, and didn't Bernie know he was being set up? Wasn't that quite obvious? What was he expecting? He's not very smart. In fact, he's a damn fool. Anyway, Frankenbernie told Anderson Cooper, how good Castro's literacy programs were. Everybody's watching this interview. And Bernie starts talking about, yeah, well, right after he got in office, he started literacy programs. Now, what's wrong with that? You got to be kidding me. He can't possibly be that naive. Literacy programs. These were hardcore mind control, pro-Soviet, pro-communist propaganda. Had nothing to do with teaching him to read or write or learn about literature. Real literature was banned by Castro. You weren't allowed to read real literature in Cuba under Castro. No, the kind of literature he was talking about was communist propaganda, mind control, brainwashing. What a dope. Oh, but he loved them Soviet puppet shows. They were really impressive. This guy's a fool. I can't believe he went on 60 Minutes and said these things. I mean, this guy is completely out of touch with reality. So, how is this all going to turn out? Well, for starters, Frankenbernie just lost Florida. That's right, he just lost Florida with that interview. Florida is just full, especially southern Florida, is just full of people who fled Cuba and Castro. And, of course, many of their friends and family members did not make it out. And, of course, you know what Castro used to do to homosexuals in Cuba? He lined them up against the wall and shot them. So something tells me that once this comes out, Commie Bernie, his support amongst gay folks is about to drop like a rock. Right along with the fact that pretty much if he wanted to hurt himself with Hispanics, Latinos, particularly those in Florida who actually lived in Cuba, escaped Cuba, you can kiss that vote goodbye. Bernie lost Florida in the 60 Minutes interview and probably hurt himself with a lot of other people, Cubans, ex-Cubans, other Latinos, other people from the region who know all about what Castro was really about, not what Bernie thinks. And they're certainly going to respond to that. You can bet on that. Now, this is not going to help Bernie, like I said, with the gays or the queers. Castro, of course, as I just mentioned, shot them. Lined them up against the wall and shot them. Now, the Bernie bros, from their point of view, they're not, of course, listening to the corporate media. They despise the corporate media and don't trust them, nor should they. I mean, the Bernie bros, they have their own independent media that they follow and pay attention to. They don't watch CNN and MSNBC and ABC and NBC or PBS or any of these people. They don't trust these people any more than any of us do, Trump supporters. There's some similarities between Bernie supporters and Trump supporters, is that we both understand the establishment sucks and the establishment lies. They're horribly corrupt, and the media is horribly corrupt and is in bed with the Demo-Commie Party. The Bernie bros despise the corporate Democratic Party. They despise the left-wing media. So so they can go ahead and run their propaganda, but if they think that they're going to have some effect on the Bernie bros because the Commie News Network does a hit piece on him, I don't think that's going to work. It's only going to make the Bernie bros angrier and angrier. So it's a misfire. It'll have no effect. So the media campaign that they're going to drop on Commie Bernie right now is not going to be effective at turning the majority of his supporters away from him. It will only empower them and anger them even more. So it will be a fail. They're simply going to dig in and fight back. Now, we're not going to have to wait, as I thought we might, and many other people thought, we're not going to have to wait for the convention 4.5 months from now for the Demo-Commie Party to divide and implode. It's happening now. They're not going to wait for the convention because they can't. They now realize that if they don't stop the Bernie train, he could very well arrive at the convention, maybe not with enough delegates to close the deal, but being so far ahead in the delegate count that they simply won't be able to take it away from him. And this is what they're now realizing, and it has a lot to do with how well he did with the Hispanic and black vote. And this is exactly why Anderson Cooper was directed to answer those questions and dial in on Commie Bernie's praising Castro and these other communist dictators. It was specifically designed to get Commie Bernie to have to admit that he praised Castro, knowing good and well that this would really hurt him in the future with Hispanics and will absolutely cost him, and now the Democrats, Florida. But they're willing to lose Florida to shut down Bernie. They ceded Florida to Trump in that interview to stop Bernie now. That's the trouble they realize they're in, because the big corporate donors at the Democratic Party have already advised them. No Bernie Sanders, no Elizabeth Warren. If you put in Warren or Sanders, no money for you. So they're terrified. Now Bernie is like a runaway train, and they're trying to find a way to stop him. And it appears that they're going to go for an all-out media blitz using Bloomberg's money and the left-wing media. And of course, you've had many Democrats come out today and slam Bernie over the comments he made in that 60 Minutes interview. Now, we haven't heard much from the candidates running for president other than Bloomberg. In fact, we haven't heard from him personally. We've heard from campaign people. But the other people running against Bernie right now I haven't seen any of them come out and make a statement. My guess is that they're huddling with their people right now, trying to figure out how they should respond. Because they would like to get some of Bernie's supporters to support them. And my guess is the decision they're making right now is, do they come out and hit Bernie, or do they let Bloomberg do it? Because there is going to be blowback. The person who goes after Bernie is going to face serious blowback. And if you're one of those other candidates, you just as soon let Bloomberg do it, because Bloomberg probably isn't going to make it anyway. So it's almost like Bloomberg has been brought in as the assassin to take out Bernie, to clear the path for the rotten reverend. So, like I said, if they take out Commie Bernie, and I don't think they can totally take out Commie Bernie, but they can definitely hurt him. They can inflict some injury to him and possibly slow him down. They're not going to stop him. His supporters are hardcore. They're not going anywhere. They know that. But his hardcore base is probably around 25 to 30, 35%. The only reason that he's getting 50 and in the 50 range is because the rest of the field is so weak. And because Bloomberg looks so bad in that debate. And because Biden looks like he's losing his mind. And who else is left? I mean, once you've pretty much eliminated Bloomberg, because he's certainly not going to get it done, and you eliminate Warren, because she's not favorable to the corporate donors, who's that leave you? Buttigieg? Klobuchar? Burisma Joe? I don't think so. None of these people are going to get it done. They're clearing the path for someone else, and that someone else is the Rotten Reverend. But the problem they're going to have is that she's one of the most divisive people in the damn country, and the Bernie bros despise the Rotten Reverend. Even Democrats know that the Rotten Reverend will hurt them, but she might be the least damaging person to put at the top of the ticket. And if they have to lose the Bernie supporters and lose the election to Trump, they're probably willing to do that because they probably understand already that that's the case. Like I said before, I think they're just trying to figure out how they can hold on to the Congress or keep from getting their asses completely annihilated. And if you put Bernie and possibly even Bloomberg at the top of the ticket, that's exactly what's going to happen. So they have to find someone who fits the centrist mold, and that only leaves you Biden. But the guy doesn't even know where he is half the time. He can't connect with people, and he's got problems coming up. So you can wipe him off the board. Who's that leave? Buttigieg. Well, Buttigieg's got a lot of problems too. He's let's face it, he's married to a man, and he likes to kiss his husband at all these events. It doesn't look good. It doesn't play in Peoria. He doesn't have a good resume. He was pretty much a failed mayor of this place in Indiana, South Bend, I guess, or wherever. If he were to run again, he would lose. There's a lawsuit right now pending against him for firing black law enforcement officers in town. So I mean, he's got a lot of problems. He doesn't have any. He don't have much charisma, but more importantly, he doesn't have an agenda. He only talks in platitudes. But you can never nail him down on any real policies. And when you do, they're very unpopular. So he's not the answer. He's too far to the left as well. And Trump is just slaughtering on the stage. He can't stand up to Trump. You're going to have to someone with a much bigger figure than that. Well, who's that going to be? What, Klobuchar? She eats her salad with a comb? She has no charisma. She has, she's another one. She really has no big policy agenda. If you go up to someone on the street, a Democrat, and say, give me the 3 things that Amy Klobuchar stands for that she would do if she were elected, they can't tell you one. No one knows what she's really running for. So she's not the answer. So who is? There's only one person left. One person left. The Rotten Reverend. There you go. It's becoming pretty clear to me what's going on here. So this campaign against Bernie begins tomorrow. They got 10 days before Super Tuesday. They got 10 days to knock Bernie down. They can't knock him out because his supporters will keep him in the game. He's got a good 25, maybe 30% solid base. They cannot let Bernie arrive at the convention with 300 or 400 more delegates than anybody else. They have to at least ways slow him down. And that's the best that they can hope for. And it looks like they're going to sacrifice Bloomberg because Bloomberg will come out and drop the ads. He'll spend the money, and he probably will go after Bernie in the debate. Now, that, of course, will destroy Bloomberg in the process. Bloomberg will do a lot of damage to Bernie, but he will destroy himself in the process. Because once he goes after Bernie, you can kiss the Bernie support for Bloomberg goodbye. So even though Bernie says, well, I'll support the nominee, even if it's Bloomberg, his supporters certainly won't. And they know that. So you can pretty much kiss Bloomberg goodbye. So the purpose that Bloomberg seems to serve right now is to bankroll the DNC, keep him flush with cash. He can drop hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in ads in the general election, supporting whichever nominee the Democrats go with, and it won't be Bloomberg. He can basically be a kingmaker. He buys himself total access to the White House if they win, and they won't. And of course, he's the guy who can come in and drop enough money in ads in the Super Tuesday states. Nobody else there has the money it takes to drop millions and millions of dollars in ads in the Super Tuesday states. I was 20 states up that day. Someone is going to need a hell of a lot of money, and the Democratic National Committee doesn't have it. Tom Perez doesn't have it. Bloomberg has it. So they're going to use Bloomberg as the assassin to try to take out Bernie. It won't be 100% effective, but it will hurt him. But it will also take Bloomberg out in the process. But his money will still be there. He might be going away. He may not be the guy after Super Tuesday, but his money will still remain. Now, that means he can also remain into the convention. He's not going to going to quit. It's just that when they get to the convention, if they have a broker convention, which they likely will, there's no way that the Bloomberg people are going to persuade Bernie people to vote for Bloomberg. That's the problem that they have. You won't be able to get a majority vote unless you have Bernie people. Now, my guess is they'll do what they did in 2016. They just won't seat the delegates for Bernie. They just won't seat them. And what's that going to cause? Chaos. Chaos and violence. It's a meltdown. Oh, it's all going to come to a head at the convention, but we're not going to have to wait for the convention to see the complete division, the divide, and the collapse of the party. It's going to happen here over the next couple of weeks, long before the convention, which is 4.5 months away. Okay, a lot to say on that, but I'm running out of time. Devin Nunes on Lou Dobbs. Devin Nunes is telling Lou Dobbs that they're likely to make, in fact certainly will make, criminal referrals on the Mueller team. Devin Nunes tells Lou Dobbs they are going to make criminal referrals on the Mueller team because they now have 302s that show that the Mueller team lied to Congress and to the courts. And of course, we just learned, following up on that today, we just learned from John Solomon some newly declassified FBI memos. These memos directly contradict the Mueller team and these claims that Papadopoulos lied to the FBI and hindered their investigation and prevented them from getting to Mifsud. So the lead attorney for Uncle Bob the Executioner Mueller, who also just resigned over the Roger Stone case, that would be Aaron Zelinsky, told the court that Papadopoulos lied to protect Mifsud. But as it turns out, the new evidence reveals that Papadopoulos did tell the FBI that he asked Mifsud where he learned about the Russians having the rotten Reverend Clinton's emails. And Mifsud told him. He said that the Russians told him that. And Papadopoulos told that to the FBI. Additionally, Papadopoulos contacted the FBI on February the 10th of 2017 and told the FBI that Mifsud had just contacted him and that he, Mifsud, was in D.C., the District of Criminals. They could have went and picked him up then, but they didn't. Not only that, Papadopoulos told them, hey, Mifsud's in town. You want to talk to him? There he is. And they didn't go shake him up, talk to him, pick him up, lock him up, or anything else. But then they go to the courts and to the Congress and say that Papadopoulos prevented them from being able to get to Mifsud. Well, the evidence here in this newly revealed evidence proves they lied. Yes, Uncle Bob the Executioner, Mueller, and his team of Hillary Clinton donor posse probably better lawyer up. Because again, as we can see here, the Mueller team, even after given this information by Papadopoulos, never attempted to get Mifsud, and they withheld this exculpatory information from the court on Papadopoulos, just like they withheld exculpatory information from the court in the FISA warrants regarding Papadopoulos. So yes, Uncle Bob the Executioner and the Mueller team, the bright light is now being shined on you. You rats. And you, Mr. Zelinsky, and Mr. Wiseass, better lawyer up. The Gateway Pundit is reporting that over the last year and a half, a team of Trump allies have been putting together a list of anti-Trump officials who need to be ousted. Trump now has that list. Conservative activist leaders of the group Groundswell are responsible for compiling the list. And it's headed up by Barbara Leiden and Ginny Thomas. You know who Ginny Thomas is? Supreme Court Justice Thomas's wife. Clarence Thomas's wife. And now John McEntee and Kash Patel have been given that list by the president, or by people acting on behalf of the president. So now they know exactly who to can. And they're going to go, and they're going to go quick. And Rick Grinnell is now in charge of making those calls. You can bet that the house cleaning has already begun. They got actual names. departments. They know exactly who the deep staters are, and they're about to get a swift kick in the ass out the door for good. Well done. Well, what do we have here? Surprise, surprise, surprise. Golly, Shazam! It looks like Marie Yovanovitch has now inked a 7-figure book deal. I predicted it. I said she would be getting a book deal, and a movie will soon follow. Yes, the movie's coming. Probably Hulu. And probably be up there at the Sundance Film Festival previewing it. And it appears to be the same literary agent that signed Jimmy the Weasel Comey and McCabe, John Bolton, and Christine Blasey Ford. Oh man, lock 'em up. Christine Blasey Ford. That insidious slit should be in jail. Right along with these other characters. Well, it looks like Jesse Smollett was in court. And believe it or not, he's charged with 6 felonies. What's crazy about this, the Osunaro brothers were there. Yes, they were. They were there. And they're working for the government. They've already told the whole story to the prosecutor. Smollett hired them to pull off the stunt. It's all on video. I mean, they got them going in the store and buying the shit. I mean, this is a slam dunk. But yet Smollett is going to pled not guilty. Not guilty. Dude, you're guilty. I mean, you are guilty. I mean, talk about getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar. The 2 guys that you brought into the scheme are testifying against you. They got the video. You're busted, dude. But he's going to plead not guilty. Now, not guilty, how not guilty? He can't be saying he's not guilty based on the evidence, because the evidence clearly shows, along with the witness testimony from the 2 guys he hired to help him, that he's guilty as hell. So what could possibly be his defense? Is he going to say he's guilty for insanity? Reasons of insanity? Well, I don't think he can make the case that he's insane, but he just might be the first person to use the Trump derangement syndrome defense. He could say he was simply temporarily insane because of Trump derangement syndrome. I'm predicting, and I'm half serious here, about half serious. I'm predicting that his not guilty plea is going to be based on the fact that he was temporarily insane because of Trump derangement syndrome. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. You're laughing. Oh, you're out there. Oh, that's funny, Mike. Oh, very good. Oh. No, I'm half serious. You just watch and see. Wait and see what he does. Well, we have a new statement from the Sheriff's Department in Amador County on the death of Phil Haney. Phil Haney, the Sheriff's Department said, hey, wait a minute. These reports that we've ruled this a murder or suicide or whatever, these are not true. This is just, not true. We've never come out with a statement either way that it's a murder or a suicide. We don't know. We're considering at this point, we don't know. We're in the middle of an investigation. It is ongoing, and we have not come to any conclusion of suicide yet. So, there you go. They're looking at it now. My guess is it won't take long for the deep staters to apply some pressure on the sheriff, just like they did in the Las Vegas shooting, and pretty soon, even though, remember that sheriff in Las Vegas, the first press conference he gave? It's like, wow, this dude is straight up, man. This dude's going to get the truth. Very next press conference he gives, he's like muted. He much to say, and totally different persona. They got to him. And they'll get to this sheriff too. You watch and see. This will go down just like all the other assassination hits, whether it be Epstein, JFK, RFK. You just got on the list, man. Once a deep state puts a target on you and they pull off the hit, they can shut everybody down. They certainly can. They have ways of making you not talk, or ways of making you talk and say what they want you to say. Just ask Jesse Marcel. Okay, well, it looks like Commie Frankenbernie has a new plan. Commie Frankenbernie has a new plan. I bet you just can't wait to hear this one. All you can think whenever Bernie comes out with a new plan, all you can think of is, how much is this going to cost? Well, this little babe This little beauty here looks like it's going to cost about $1.5 trillion. $1.5 trillion. That's nothing compared to the $70 trillion that's estimated to pay for his other free programs. Yeah, his free programs are going to cost us about $70 trillion. We'll add about another $1.5 trillion to that because now he's come up with a new plan. Commie Frankenbernie wants to provide free child care and pre-K. Yes, that's right. He wants to give free child care through age 3, followed by pre-kindergarten. And of course, he wants to pay for it with a tax on extreme wealth. What do you think extreme wealth is to Bernie? Well, I think it's probably going to end up being about $1,000 a year more than what he makes. Well, it looks like deep state swamp creature Dan Coates, who was fired by Trump back in July, got his last dig in against Trump on his way out the door. Before Coates left, he created a new position to coordinate election security efforts across the intel community. The position was created the day after Trump's phone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky. Coates then sent this information over to Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, Michael Atkinson. The person that Coates put in the new position was who? Shelby Pearson. Take a look at her pic. Shelby Pearson, who had previously worked at the CIA. The CIA. You cannot make this shit up. So she worked over at the CIA, and she was the chief officer at the CIA for, prepare yourself for this one, friends. She was the chief CIA officer for the CIA's Denial and Deception Office. The Office of Denial and Deception. Now, what do you think they do over there at the CIA's Office of Denial and Deception? I'm guessing denial and deception. And she was the chief officer. That's who Coates put in charge. Pearson, as it turns out, was also the individual who falsely claimed last week that Russia was trying to help Trump win the 2020 election. But now we know she lied. Has been forced to admit she lied. She made it all up. There was no evidence. And she's now had to publicly walk it back. My guess is that she's probably in that top 10 list of Mr. Grinnell. She's on the list. My guess is she's going to be finding a new job. Maybe she should learn to code. Well, what do we got here? Frankenbernie got a briefing last month that the Russians may be trying to infiltrate his campaign. Well, that's what should happen. You know, normally. Unfortunately, that didn't happen with Trump back in 2016. Why do you think that is? Any ideas? Well, the rumor mill is saying that Obama, the Rotten Reverend Clinton, Debbie Blabbermouth, Wasserman Schultz are all contacting Biden, Warren, and other demo commies and asking them to drop out of the race, preferably before Super Tuesday. And that is to preserve Bloomberg so that he can take on Bernie one-on-one, so that they can stop splitting the anti-Bernie vote amongst 5 or 6 people, so that it will just be Bloomberg, so that he can arrive at the convention completely unelectable, beat down and beat to hell, and then there'll be nobody there to take on a weakened Bernie. So you have a weakened Bloomberg and a weakened Bernie, because they will beat each other to death. Then what happens? The Rotten Reverend. That's what happens. It looks like corrupt left-wing activist Judge Amy Berman Jackson has announced that the hearing for Roger Stone's request for a new trial will be today, Tuesday, at 2 o'clock p.m. Does anyone want to guess how that's going to turn out? Well, well, well. What do we have here? Well, well, well. My, my, my. The New York Times wrote an article yesterday, in your case, outing case agent number 1 from the IG report. And as it turns out, this is a person we've never heard of before. Up to this time, me and pretty much many other people had assumed that case agent number 1 was, of course, Joe Pientka, because they've been protecting him, and he was involved in a lot of shit. A lot of shit. But we now find out that actually, this case agent number 1 was this character, Stephen Somma. Somma, S-O-M-M-A, who worked at the New York FBI field office in counterintelligence. And in the New York Times article, they blame him for being the person described in the Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz report as being the guy who committed the most of these 17 errors. The 17 errors regarding the FISA report against in the Carter Page application for the FISA warrant. And he's also the guy who sought the first FISA warrant that was rejected. He's the guy who sought the first FISA warrant that was rejected. He also was one of the Crossfire Hurricane team members. He also worked on the Woods file. He also prepared the original FISA request form and wrote the first draft. Stephen Somma. So, why is it that for all this time he's been protected? And why is it that all of a sudden, out of the blue, the New York Times writes an article and outs him? Something's going on here, you know what I mean? So what can we ascertain from this? Well, my initial reactions are that the big dogs, that would be likely Peter's Been Stroking Us, Loose Lisa Page, Jimmy the Weasel Comey, and probably Priestep and others are looking for a scapegoat. Scapegoat. And it looks like the guy that they've been protecting, who probably knows everything about them, they're all going to team up against him, and they're going to scapegoat him. And then when Durham goes to interview him, and he may have already done that, I don't know, but when he goes to interview him, because Durham would obviously know this, then he's probably going to say that all these people knew about it, and that Been Stroking Us and Page and McCabe and all these people knew, and in fact probably were directing him. But they're all going to say he's lying. Either that, or they've worked out a deal. They've worked out a deal where he's going to take the rap, and then they're going to go easy on him because he's going to cooperate. And he's going to drop the dime, but he's going to drop the dime on himself. And he's going to make the other players look like he deceived them. And then he's going to serve probably a year in jail, and then he's going to walk out the door, and he's going to find $1 million waiting for him. That's likely what's going on here. That's likely what's going on here. He's been outed, but these people wouldn't out him unless they took care of him. And they probably gave him an ultimatum. Either A, we're all going to stick together and turn on you, and you're going away for a very long time, or you can cooperate with us, you can take the fall for us, and we'll make sure that you get a minimal sentence, and when you get out in a year or two, you're going to walk out a very, very rich man. That looks like what's going on to me. I could be wrong, but let's give it a shot and see how it goes. But one thing's for sure, we now know the identity of case agent number 1, that they've been trying very hard to keep quiet. But now they've let the dog out of the cage, and we'll have to see how Mr. Durham plays it, because he's not a dummy, and he knows there's something going on with this. We'll wait and see. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.